So now you have seen the Vice interview. I think in some quarters there's been a disappointment given the hype that the opposition made about it for weeks before the interview came out. If you look at the total interview, the one that I released several months back, unedited, it was nearly 2 hours long. And I think dealt with even more allegations than the final product that was actually published by Vice, because it was unedited and it dealt with several issues. Now, the framing of their report, one could clearly see that we are vindicated when I spoke about us not wanting to become a geopolitical pawn. When I was pressed in their interview, that is the main 2 hours interview, about China and its role in Guyana and the Western Hemisphere, I made it clear that we are not going to participate in an anti-China hysteria, that we will look out for our country and what's best for our people, that we had extremely good relations and growing relations with the United States of America at the bilateral level, that the United States was our largest investor. Nevertheless, we will work with many others, including China. I made that clear. The reporter sought to get me embroiled in the geopolitical issues, and I made it clear we didn't, as a small country, we did not want to get involved in that. So as you saw, the framing of the report was precisely about that at the beginning, about China growing presence in this hemisphere and about the US concerns about the hemisphere. I wish, since that was the key issue in which she framed the story at the beginning, that she would have played a part of my response to on that issue. But she did not use any of my very lengthy response on that matter, because I guess that did not suit the narrative of a small country that is trying to do the best for its people without getting caught up in the geopolitical fight. So none of that was used. In fact, in the almost 2 hours interview that they had with me, just about a minute of it was used in the final product. But this country has had a chance to see the entire 2 hours because I made it public. I made it public. And it seems as though that Norton only watched it a couple days ago, but I'll come to that a little bit later. So that's the first issue. Secondly, from the same report, you could see that a lot of information was shared. So clearly, the reporter in the 2 hours interview was not sure about how contracts were awarded, like the Myla Fall project, whether it was a tendered project or not. I took a while to explain to her the history of Amila and where we were at that moment. She raised issues about, I spoke in that interview too about China had a tiny presence in the oil and gas sector. In fact, the only Chinese presence in the oil and gas sector at this time is CNOOC, which is part of the consortium of companies where they have a 25% stake. So it was my surprise when the report said that Sue had a stake in the oil and gas sector. But she knew clearly from that report that only CNOOC, the interview, and must have found out here that no other Chinese company, local or foreign, had any stake in the oil and gas sector. If you look at when I spoke about the Integrity Commission, in the main interview, she said, the Integrity Commission, is that something that already exists? That's what she asked me. This is a reporter coming in from abroad who then asked me a question like that that should have been researched. And now she said, in this, they spent several weeks in Guyana. They were here for several weeks doing research on every issue under the sun and didn't even know that an Integrity Commission existed in Guyana. And I had to explain that it came into being in the year 2000, and we've been submitting our statements to the Integrity Commission since then, statements of income and asset, except for 3 years under APNU, when the Secretariat of the Integrity Commission, not the Commission alone, was disbanded. And they collected no statements in the 3 years under APNU. But from 2000 to 2022, that's the only gap that we have had. She did not know about this. She asked extensively about the Amerindian, our approach to indigenous people, and I spoke about that. So clearly, none of that mattered. None of it. And I would urge people to go back and look again at the document that I released. They had to come up with a narrative, and I don't blame Vice News. Vice News has reputational issues globally. As we know now, they Photoshop pictures onto genocide, a photo of genocide. They Photoshop that. But Vice News has to do a program that sells. They're into making money. And what sells globally? As I said in my interview, showing corrupt third world leaders, or alternately, showing China dominating the world. That is good for a US audience. So if you do a story like that, you tend to have a buyer of it. You can make more money. You'd have greater viewership. So I don't blame Vice for that. So they had to show that Guyana is up for sale, and to the Chinese particularly. Although China is not the biggest investor here. In fact, by many countries have overtaken China by far now as major investors in Guyana, by far, and in more sectors. And I pointed out, especially in the oil and gas industry. So the whole issue is, after that interview came out, Sue issued a statement saying that he didn't say any such thing, and that it was misleading what they said. I held a press conference and I repeated what I said there, that they would never find me taking a bribe, because none of that has ever happened. I pointed out also several times about people leveraging access. And I said, should any evidence to the contrary emerge, where what he issued in his statement, then I will take action thereafter. So let us go through the program that recently was aired. So there are many questions that have been raised about why at home and all of this issue, and editorials, etc. Why did that take place? So first of all, before I do that, they had this recording. So I think the interview with me, which they desperately sought to arrange because I was busy and didn't have time to meet with them for the interview. So they got a number of people to call me. And if I tell you who the people were, some of them are linked to the opposition too. To call me desperately. I think they went directly to Sorama when they came here, and they were filled with a lot of, I thought it was just the geopolitical thing. But then they met with a lot of local people, some from the opposition too, I believe, in these places. And they were told a lot of stuff about us. The usual APNU line, PPP is corrupt, Jagdeo is corrupt, etc. So people were calling me, can't you see these people? Obviously, I don't know if they knew, but they knew they had to get them access to me. So eventually I agreed to the interview. It was the Parliament day, and I decided to do it just downstairs in the Parliament building. That's a 2 hours interview. So when they came to that interview, they had this recording that was done at my home. So I think that was to verify whether I was going to lie, because I didn't know about that they had the recording. So they asked me, who is Subu? So I said, he's my tenant. And then they asked, is he your friend? So just imagine if I had said no, an acquaintance or something. Then that interview they had, I said, he's my friend. So I said, yes, he's my friend. So I don't think they got the inconsistency that they hoped for. Then they would have played both side by side and said, Jagdeo denied this. So clearly, I said, he's a friend. And that was that they didn't get that inconsistency. I saw Norton saying my demeanor in the interview was a sign of guilt. Well, Norton, if that was a sign of guilt, when the reporters asked him about the SOPs and he ran and jumped in the wrong vehicle, that had to be even worse a sign of guilt. He just ran away, or got so confused he ran and jumped in the wrong vehicle and then clutched his little bag and ran over back to another vehicle. That must have been a bigger sign of being guilty of lying. But anyhow, let's don't get to that about reading demeanors and stuff like that. No. So let me go back to the core issue. So that interview now, all the 2 hours was just designed to get me to say something inconsistent. So all of the charges were leveled right there, if you look at the interview, even worse than what came out in the final product. And I said, no, I don't know of any such thing. So what happened there with that day? So let me sue who was my tenant, as you know, and he lives next door. He'd been trying to set up this meeting for days, several days. He said to me, there is someone here who is investing in his project, not a government project. In his project, he has an investor, and he would like me to meet with the investor. Now, what is the, let me go through that first and then I'll come back to this issue. So when he said that, I said I'm busy. So days passed. So the afternoon I went home and he came to my gate and said the guy is leaving the following day if I can't see him. So I said, all right, when I change, have him come over for a few minutes. So that is how they got access to me. Now, as the interviewer said, the Vice News said, they were coming on a hotel and casino deal. That is what they came to see me about. So in the interview, well, I didn't know they were recording me. It wasn't more an interview. In the recording, repeatedly, which lasted about 15 to 20 minutes, they were repeatedly trying to get me, the guy was trying to get me to say I'm part of this, or whether I will be part of the hotel and casino deal. And I kept saying, no, that's not it. I'm in government. I deal with government issues. I don't, that's Sue's business. He deal with that stuff. So throughout it all, I don't get involved in business. So this is about nearly 15 minutes. You only saw a couple, maybe less than a minute of it, 30 seconds. And I'm not sure that even the two bits of stuff that I said are contiguous, that they're part of the same conversation or throughout the 15 minutes that they were taken in that context, throughout the 15 minutes. So, but throughout it all, they could not get me to say, I want to be part of this arrangement. That is what the guy was pushing all along. Then suddenly, well, now I know, because I didn't know at that time what he was speaking to Sue about in Chinese. He was saying to him that he wanted to offer me a bribe. And Sue told him, I'm going based on their interpretation. No, he will not take it. I'll collect it. Now, if you came into Vice came into my house with the sole purpose of catching me, engage in something illegal and taking a bribe, or the service fee that they call it. And you couldn't do that when, in that moment, my most unguarded moment, because I didn't know I was being recorded. The guy could have easily turned to me in English and say, I have some money for you, so will you take it? So that is the key issue here. As I said before, they're never going to find anything of that nature. Why would a man tell you when he comes out that he's clean? And then we'll give him more money when the oil and gas thing comes along. We'll give him big money, oil and gas or something like that. You had to know you were being scammed at that time by somebody who was leveraging contact. So they came to my house. They tried to orchestrate Sue to bring them to my house, pressure him to bring them to my house, and could not, even in my house, when they're secretly recording me, get me to agree to be involved in a hotel and casino deal, nor offer me and show that I took a bribe. They've done this around the world with a lot of leaders who they actually have taken money and all of that. Couldn't find that. So that was the damn squib of it all. They had access into my home, secretly recorded me, and this is it. And this is about 15 minutes going on. It's not like 1 minute they were there for. We're sitting there chatting. I'm trying to get me to say this. Now, through the course of the conversation, they were trying to get me to also say that the casino license must be given to them exclusively. So let me go back now to how this project was done. So in November 2020, in October 2020, if you go to the newspapers, you will see that the Ministry of Tourism put out an ad for expressions of interest for people who are interested in building hotels. So that was closed on November 2nd, a public process. We received about 18 applications. There was a committee that was set up, the president chairing it, because we said we wanted to move that sector quickly. Myself, Minister Onage, the president, Peter Ramstroop, Plans and Survey, everybody, to move the process along. Of the 18 proposals we had, 12 or so received MOUs. And since then, Sue, who had nothing to do, this is on his land, put in an expression of interest through a public process and had an MOU, one of the 12 that got an MOU. Now, the MOU doesn't confer any special treatment to Sue or anyone else. They all are standard. You can get a 10 years tax holiday. You get the concessions on machinery and equipment and everything for the hotel, tax-free concession. And if you have a hotel that is above 150 rooms and 4-star service, you can then get a casino license. Anybody. And that's a standard regime for the country. He got one like that. This arrangement here was to try to get me to say he will get an exclusive thing, license to. And I said, no, the law is, I deal with government side of things. The law is that anybody, that is the law, 150 rooms, anyone who builds a hotel would get the same thing. So Sue did not get anything special there. And it was not a government project we were describing. It was his investor he wanted me to meet. And the investor, who is now the reporter, was trying to get me to say I can be part of this deal, which I said no. And then he's trying to get exclusivity from the government for the casino license. And I said no. I deal with government business, who deals with the other stuff. So this is the tenure of the conversation from my memory. So this was the process. I don't know, as I said before, what Sue has been telling people until now. Has this been access for us? I've had the same phone in 20-something years. The same phone number in 20-odd years. In the party, almost thousands of people have my number. Every day they send me, well, not every day, a lot of them send me WhatsApp messages. My number has not changed. That's it. I believe for a party and anyone to be effective, you have to give people access. We don't know, and there are lots of people who've been leveraging this access to their own benefit. In this case, I didn't deny this guy is my friend. I didn't deny he was my friend. And I did not, it was his investor. This was not a government project like a Mile Fall or some other project we're discussing. It was his investor that he wanted me to meet, his investor. And so that is how it took place at my home. And preferably it would probably taken out somewhere else, but because I couldn't see them, I got home that evening and he was at my gate. So I imagine that was the moment when this country saw me unguarded and with an international news agency trying to implicate me in a corruption scandal, when I didn't know that I was being taped, and they saw what happened. So I think it works in my favor, frankly speaking, because I don't know how many politicians in the world, or in APNU or AFC, would have been there and trying to work out a deal with people. I don't know that, because even without people, they were soliciting bribes on the APNU, soliciting the ministers and the others, soliciting. They didn't have to get anybody to leverage. You know how many people, coming back to the point of access, lots of people call me, of all walks of life, call me to say, can you set up a meeting with someone? And I meet with them. I don't know what they're telling people. They bring friends, they bring family, etc. But for us to remain the PPP, as we are, if we shut down that access, we become aloof. Now, the problem is that some people will rip off others, and other people have to be not so stupid. If somebody tells you that I can get you access and you have to pay me, to pay them, verify it. You could easily verify that. So this is the whole issue there. That is precisely what happened on this matter. And as you saw, I was vindicated. But now let's come to some inaccuracies. That is what took place there in the report. So Amila's fall, the reporter knew that there's several efforts we've made. And we've been negotiating almost 7 months now on Amila. And we can't conclude. The company tried to change the basis on which we tendered, which was a boot operation, and now they want us to go to an EPC contract. And we said, no, we did not tender on that basis. If you want to go to EPC, if we go out and we decide to go that route, then you can retender again. But not to now tender on the basis of a boot and then get awarded an EPC contract. So we made that clear. And 2 months ago, they wrote us saying they can't finance it, and we made it clear to them. They can't go to get the financing for a boot. They may be able to get the financing for EPC finance contract. So that is clear. The reporter flew over and said, here is this fall, and the government has just awarded a contract to build this hydropower, and a massive bribe has been paid for that to happen. That is one. Two, said that in the Taiwan issue, we received a bribe and they were vindicated because months after the interview, they saw the 1.5 billion loan. And the loan was a bribe to reverse the decision on Taiwan. Now, first of all, I pointed out that 180 countries in the world subscribe to the One China policy, including the United States of America. She asked me, so we established diplomatic relations with China in 1970. And since then, this country has had a One China policy, not changed. When Taiwan came here recently and their Ministry of Foreign Affairs issued them with permission that would have undermined that. We didn't have a problem with Taiwan coming here on the investment side, but not to have a diplomatic presence. And when that happened, we immediately intervened to reverse it. They said, because we got 1.5 billion, that's why we reversed it. But that was our policy all along, including the policy of the United States of America. So where did this 1.5 billion come about? And they had to know about it. We don't have at this point in time a loan for 1.5 billion from China. In November of 2020, there was a letter written from finance to say we have a lot of projects and we think from China we'll be looking to try to get access to about 1.5 billion of financing. We looked to all the sources, Islamic Development Bank, the Caribbean Development Bank, the World Bank, the Inter-American Development Bank, bilateral sources everywhere, and we said over this period, this is how much we have to raise money to get all of our plans implemented, and we would look forward to, from China, this access. So that was the letter written in November. In February 16th of 2021, this is the letter from finance. This is long before Vice interview and all of that, speaking about the same thing and some of the projects that we were hoping to finance. So, for example, it still had here, for example, the Schooner to Parika Highway. We now have taken that off because we're going to move to another source of financing. But we were looking to secure all the sources of financing that we had. So it's no secret that we wrote trying to secure access, but we have not concluded the loans. There is no loan, and it did not come about because of Taiwan. The issue in Taiwan, which she said in our program that we got a bribe to reverse the decision. The country got a bribe of 1.5 billion for these projects. It is now we are at a stage. The first loan we will go for now is the bridge. So then that's concluded, then we will have a loan. The first loan since we got into office from China will be for the bridge, and that has not even been concluded as at this point in time. No agreement has been signed, although the terms have been worked out as yet. So there is no 1.5 billion of loans. That's false. As I said before, no other Chinese company has any stake in the oil and gas industry, although she mentioned that. So there are lots of those things have surfaced that are totally inaccurate. Now, I should end here just to say that I've seen some calls for resignation from APNU. And of course they would be happy, APNU would be happy if I just pack up tomorrow and leave totally, maybe disappear here. They hope to, in fact, they were hyping this interview before it came out as this would be the end of Jagdeo and everything else. They were hoping, they were hyping it. I think they're not mildly, but majorly disappointed. So I made it clear that about my financials. These are allegations so far. If we had to investigate every person on the basis of what was clearly a ripoff of an investor from a man who says to them that he could probably get some money from them and you'd have to share it with government officials. That is what they're saying we must investigate. So access, you don't have to investigate access because the guy was my friend. And so I said he had the access, and I explained that, how he got the access there. So in this case, my financials are clear. I think they were hoping that Vice, given its long reach, would have found a whole range of issues with me. And since they spent 6 weeks in Guyana investigating, and abroad too, they have a big reach and big outfit, they would have found more. They didn't find anything because, as I made it clear, the press conference afterwards, I don't have any asset, and this I can say this clearly, held abroad, whether in banks or in shares or in properties. Secondly, all my assets are here in Guyana, and they're declared to the Integrity Commission. All of the sources of income are known to the bank. Every bank that I have where my money gets paid in, every month there, they have an agreement that even with sue tenancy agreement, I have a contract and it is with the bank. So my sources of income are accounted for. I declared every asset here to the Integrity Commission, and I don't hold assets abroad. That is as clear as daylight. So the next thing is that coming back now to what actions I'll take. I made it clear that if what Sue said in his statement was not accurate, then I'll take legal action. The people who is ripped off can take criminal action. I'm going to take reputational action. I'm going to sue him. And I made it clear, I think it was Marcel who asked me whether he'd be a tenant of mine if I find out that he's actually said some of these things. And I said once that comes out to the contrary, no longer. And I'm looking to him to throw him out, looking for him. Can't find him so far, but as soon as I find him, this will happen. And so that is all I want to say now. Yes.
Just some more clarifications. Understand that you cut ties with him personally as a friend. What about his projects with the government, his hotel and casino? I understand that he had an MOU. Does that have any standing that binds him in any way?
No, the MOUs are with Go Invest, and you can find out about all 12 of the MOUs. So all the hotels have that, and only when the project is starting to be finalized do they have it moves from an MOU to an investment agreement. He is not moved from an MOU to the investment agreement, where the terms of the MOU are then put into an investment agreement. Now that's his business with the government as an investor, so that's separate from me. But at the personal level, this is over.
So there's a possibility that he may still be allowed to go ahead?
Yeah, because if he has his money and everything else, that's for Go Invest.
Okay. The Integrity Commission, her not knowing that there was an Integrity Commission, it can be chalked into ignorance, but also if she was here in 6 weeks, and in all her engagements, no one mentioned it to her, she doesn't know. Do you think that the government needs to do more work in this regard to strengthen the commission and to ensure that people comply with
Sure, but we always have to do that, but that was not an interest, in her interest, to find out. Sometimes people who come from abroad don't believe third world countries could have these things. So she came in with a preconceived idea that China is taking over Guyana, and then sought to prove that it was doing so corruptly. And so finding out about politicians submitting their statements to the Integrity Commission would have run contrary to that narrative. So no need to research that. So that's what I think. Yes, let me just finish with it.
The Chinese community, do you think that you may have to, that the Chinese community may have a certain perception of the government that may not necessarily be accurate in a representation of what is going on? If there were these parts of the interview where you saw Chinese people, the faces were blurred, but they were given certain information that you're saying is contrary to the reality.
Actually, if I think those people who said they had to I think the police should ask them about it. Because if they had to pay any bribe, the police should ask them about it, the ones who were saying this in the video. But I think also there's a subculture there that is, they fight each other a lot in some of these local groups. I can tell you now about 3 or 4 people who've been trying to contact my office. Remember, I told you this at the last press conference, who claim they have MOUs with Chinese companies. They're the local reps for the Chinese companies. And often they're competing for the same things. So they will then have fight and among each other about who gets what. I've had cause to turn people away just a couple of weeks ago on another set of projects. They come here all the time. And there's a lot of locals, mainly locals. They come with people and say, can you see I have an investor from abroad? And if you don't see them, they say you don't want to reach out, you're aloof now, and all of that. If you see them, you don't know what they tell people. So I think they have a subculture there that thrives on this sort of thing. But if there is any evidence of wrongdoing in there and they claim they had to pay someone, then that's a matter for the police.
Are you calling on them to come forward?
Yes, they should come forward. Anybody who has had to pay anybody for a service in government, then why not come forward now? Come and now state this clearly. Take it to the police. Take it to the police. That's what they should do. And including Norton and the others, because they like to operate in this sphere of abstract, so they must be investigated, etc. We have specific things. They would, anyhow, let me don't waste my time with Norton. Yes.
Mr. Vice President, there is Morgan Rowley. Sir, could you clarify why is it that according to the Vice speaker, you made a point that Stu is your friend, he gets all the support, Stu deals with all of the agreements, I'm in government, so I assist from the government side. That's one question. The second one, will the state be asking that the charges against Lowenfield et al. Be dropped to make way for the Commission of Inquiry?
Oh, the state is not, as far as I know, is not going to ask that the charges against Lowenfield be dropped. There's no such intention that I know of. So that's one. And on the other matter, would you prefer me to lie and say he's not my friend? I've known this guy, and like I know a lot of people in this country, I spoke exactly the truth then and in the interview. I said that is so. Being friends with me doesn't mean that you can abuse the friendship, and that's what he had done. Now that I've seen this, the interview and what he said outside of the meeting, even his attempt to say, the guy is clean, and then went off into something else. Now, this was, as I explained to you, Dennis, this was a secret recording, and it was not all contiguous. I don't think they were all contiguous, but throughout it all, that's why I'm giving you the context. Throughout it all, they were trying to, in 15 to 20 minutes, trying to get me to say I would be involved in his business. That is Sue's business to build a hotel and a casino, and that with the investor. And I said no. Throw that. You saw that. I don't want to be involved. And I do assist. If for example, that is why every one of those hotels, all 12 of the MOUs and the 18, we met with every one of those investors. Every one of them, there was a committee that was set up that met with everybody, the entire group of people, all 18 of them. This is not anything unusual. I saw one reporter said, investment is not Jagdeo's portfolio. Well, what do you think we're doing to get jobs? One Jagdeo portfolio, what do you think? I'm sterile here? And a lot of people were saying, it's some minister thing. Let me tell you the mere fact that we had to set up at the office of the president a unit to follow up on promises made to people and to resolve issues that people face across this country. We have already had on the outreaches over 5,000. I will intervene on a daily basis. The president does so, everyone, just on NIS. NIS might now be my portfolio. On people having a whole range of other issues, public assistance. Public assistance is now my portfolio. When I go out there, I'll make sure that people who are treated unfairly in some other matter. Maybe if they have a housing application, we'd follow up. And that is from the office of the president, from a unit that we set up. That would be seen as intervention in the portfolios of other people. If a businessman come and say, I've had my thing at Go Invest for ages, I'm creating 50 jobs, and I can't get the project through, we'll find out and we'll push it along. It doesn't mean anything illegal is done or for payment. That is how we operate. The PPP is not dodo sort of government and aloof like the Granger government doing one meeting for a month. Every day we're on the road meeting people, going through solving issues all the time. That's how we operate. So in that process, will people capitalize on it? Yes, there may be a few, but do we stop giving access to people because a few corrupt and unscrupulous people try to rip off others? The answer is no. Yes, yes, Marcel.
Marcel Thomas from the Star Review. A follow-up to the very question, and I have two others. On the same, Sue is my friend and he will get all the support statement. There's a perception that you have to be your friend to get that support. With you saying that Sue is my friend and he will get all the support, does that mean if I'm not your friend, I'm not going to get the support? That's one.
Okay.
Two, I need clarity on the hotel investments that you said, because as far as my recollection go, I think it's 4 casinos per region. And most of the hotels are being built in Region 4.
Yeah.
There was only one outstanding
yeah.
casino license, given that Marriott already has one.
No, there are 3. There are 3, not 4. So all of the other MOUs that we have, we now have to amend the law to do that. So there are only 3, not 4 in this region. 3. And so everyone else, but the eligibility criteria remain the same, this eligibility criteria. And on that issue, friendship, I said, the guy brought somebody over to me basically as a friend. But if you ask everyone else who has been building hotels, whether their agreement will be different than Sue or their MOU, it's the same MOU. It's exactly the same MOU. So that is why I made it clear that there's nothing special because they came to see me on a hotel and casino. We went through a public process, and the MOU for everyone is exactly the same MOU, and you can verify that with Go Invest.
And my other question was, Sue brought this person to your home. He's your neighbor. Is that the first time that Sue has brought someone into your home? Business person? And
yeah.
That's one.
Uh-huh.
And from that little bit on Vice, the entire conversation seemed to have been in English, except for the part with the bride. When they broke out in Mandarin, didn't you think it odd, and given that it's impolite to speak in another language, shouldn't you have objected and said, like, we're really going on here, we all saying, or something like that?
The thing is that I don't think that was the only time that they spoke in Mandarin. I don't think that was the only time. And I didn't know if it was Mandarin or Cantonese or whatever they were talking. But frankly speaking, it was an afternoon and I was tired, so I didn't care too much what they were speaking. What I understood is he was trying all along, and I was very, very clear about that. So this is not like it was a stage managed thing, as you saw. So if they were, that is why I'm saying, if they wanted to really catch me, the guy knew English, the one, right? All he had to say, not to whisper in Mandarin to Sue, it was to say to me, we have a bribe for you. Or you wouldn't have to call it a bribe. Some money for you. And then they had the camera there. And had I taken it, that would have been the catch you moment. Why would you have to tell Sue this? And then Sue saying, oh, don't worry, I'm going to collect it. And when you come out, Sue says, he's clean. I'll wait for bigger things to give him some money. Okay? And you had to know you were being duped. When the guy said, I want to know that he's actually getting this stuff. And Sue said, no, no, no. So that is why I feel so vindicated by the whole thing. In fact, it proved in my most vulnerable moment when I I didn't know I was being recorded, that you couldn't find me taking a bribe from a person who is in my home. Okay?
You didn't answer the first question.
What?
Is it the first time that
Oh, no, I'm trying to think, and I don't think many people at home, but he has set up meetings with other people, for me, and yeah.
Lastly, clarity on something you said about the investigation, that it would be kind of a waste of time. I don't know if that's what it is.
No, because for me, I think people, if he has done this to people and collected money from them, that...
No, not that. For an investigation of you. Like
Oh, okay, but that's an opposition thing. Yes, that's how they would, whether even before this they were calling for that. That's nothing new. That's nothing new. That's not gonna, on allegations, on the basis of allegations. If we had to do that on the basis of allegations, I can say that when Norton is by Bam Bam Ali, people give him stuff too there. They tell me a lot of stuff. I don't want to deal with that. Norton, please.
You mentioned that some opposition persons have reached out to you to get the interview with Vice. Were you aware that Vice News was in Guyana for several weeks and had visited several communities where they met with prominent opposition figures? And the second question is, the reporter referred to you during the interview as the most powerful politician in Guyana. Do you think that you were they deliberately set out to target you?
So the first one is, yes, I discovered subsequently that they had visited some places. I think they went to Surama. And I don't want to speak much about who the people are, because it could be that they were also fooled by Vice, but there were some opposition people. And clearly they had that angle to it, but I thought they were more interested in the geopolitical stuff. And obviously they got from the others, Jagdeo. I think also that they try to target people who have some significance. So Norton probably would have never even been targeted for a sting operation. So that, on the last question that you raised about, they try to look around for people who I think have something. So they wouldn't have even targeted Norton for a sting operation. Because, yeah, go ahead. I saw, yeah.
How soon do you anticipate the law to be amended?
I don't know. I don't know, because none of the hotels have been built as yet. None of the hotels, but they are all eligible.
Sir, can we just touch back on...
Actually, that may have been when the Constitution thing. Remember, they asked me that the Constitution would be changed or something like that.
Oh,
In the initial interview, that might have been the Constitution of Guyana, but that didn't come up. Yes, the Constitution of Guyana, yeah, to make him president.
Sir,
Yeah. Right.
Sir, just finally, you said you're going to sue, right?
Right, Susie.
Um,
No.
But
Finally, boss. Yeah.
I understand that point. But another thing, do you think that you suing, but you also said that you feel vindicated based on how things played out. So how exactly?
Vindicated from my end that you had people in my most an international news outfit that has gone around the world working hard to compromise me by putting in their person in my house and everything and being unable to do so. So I feel vindicated by that in my most unguarded moment. And the country saw that. But Sue said that he never said anything about giving bribe to anyone. That is in his statement. Now I've seen thing that he said, oh, he has to share money with somebody. I don't know if.
Do it, Glenn. You're not finished my question.
Okay, all right, no, but that's what I'm gonna assume.
What I wanted to know is usually in suing someone or so, you have to prove that you took a hit in some way. You're political.
So
Do you think
your
that
point
your
is I'm
reputation-
mitigating already by saying I'm vindicated.
Do you think your reputation took a hit by this?
Well, I think yeah. So now that you're saying that for the lawsuit purposes, yes, my reputation took a hit globally. But globally, right? But they're not Guyanese, so they may not know. And this could be like really major because it's international. This could be really big.
Based on what she said, as a government, how do you intend to mitigate, given Showtime's audience where the episode was aired? Well, it's easier to convince the general public that somebody's guilty of something than a judicial tribunal. And there are a lot of Americans, including investors over there watching this, and a lot of them probably believe that you take bribes.
Yeah.
How does the U.S. government mitigate against that?
You work for oil now, right? You ask any of the oil companies whether they view that seriously. You ask any of the oil companies because people saw it. They know the reputation of this entity, and the fact is that they saw what happened. They've been unable to prove anything of this sort. And people said, oh, I remember another point about being crude. Norton said I'm crude when I said people come here to make money. I think even the Starbuck editorial. The reporter said to me from Vice, of recent you've been attracting a lot of investors to Guyana. And what do you think Guyana has to offer? Why do investors come to a country? It is because of the opportunities to make money. It's just blunt. It's blunt. Norton said it's crude. Imagine Norton talking about crudity. But the thing is that it's a blunt. That's where I am. That's why they're here. All of these oil and gas companies, they're tripping over each other to come here, and everyone else to come to our country. And they have seen now an attempt, a dedicated attempt to basically frame someone. And it didn't work. Our systems are,
Should the public fear now that because you might be a little cagey based on what happened, that now you might want to have a different approach?
I think I have to analyze this, that maybe I'd have to be a bit more cautious, but then that changes exactly who I've been, helping people every walk of life. And anytime they have some issue in government, not because I want money from them, because I want to see things succeed, more jobs created, etc. And so that open door policy, I have to review it or put in place some other. It's very difficult to know what people say before they come to your office, because they may, you may think innocently they set up a meeting and ask you to set up someone, and they have an agreement with the person or take money from them. It's very hard to do this sort of thing. So I don't know. It could change. Yes, I have to think about it seriously.